After years of working inside the world's most mysterious property, what Travis Taylor saw pushed him to the edge. Now, the real reason why he left has finally been revealed, and it's quite terrifying. Join us as we uncover the secret of Skinwalker Ranch. Into the unknown. Dr. Travis Taylor came to Skinwalker Ranch as a serious scientist. He had built a strong career in engineering and physics with multiple advanced degrees. He earned a doctorate in optical science and engineering and also had a master's degree in physics, another in astronomy, and still more in aerospace engineering. Before joining the Skinwalker Project, he worked on important programs for the Department of Defense and for NASA, applying his skills to cutting-edge technology. When he arrived at the ranch, he blended into a team that wanted to study strange events. The ranch itself lay in Utah, over 500 acres, and many people called it a place where weird things happened. The property had a long reputation. Reports of strange lights, odd behavior of animals, and sensor readings that did not make sense in normal terms. The owner of the ranch had gathered a team of investigators, scientists, and technicians, and he invited Taylor to bring rigorous methods and a scientific mind to the mystery. Taylor's role was to measure and test. He placed instruments to monitor anomalies. He used equipment such as ground-penetrating radar, radiation sensors, and imaging devices, carefully positioning them in zones where activity seemed strongest. He recorded data over long nights, noting when readings changed and trying to link those changes to visual evidence. He watched multiple feeds, logged times, and compared instrument results side by side. He did this in the way that a scientist in a remote field lab would do, not just as a show for television. Meanwhile, living conditions at the ranch were not easy. For many months, he stayed in a small camper trailer on the property, so he could be near the experiments and react quickly when something happened. He gave up the comfort of commuting out each night and agreed to sleep very close to the places where strange energetic activities were reported. He made himself part of the daily life of the investigation. He carried out his measurements in real time as phenomena emerged, sometimes under very raw conditions. Over time, he explored a notable area of the ranch called the Ridge. That ridge was a key point of interest for the team. It was a place where unusual readings had been noted before and where many of the most active phenomena seemed concentrated. Taylor returned there many times, walking the ridge daily, even on breaks. He moved equipment, he ran experiments, he mapped how things changed with elevation or weather. He became intimately familiar with the terrain, the way signals rose and fell, and the impact of the ridge on sensor output. As he worked, he faced real danger. The team believed that radiation was present in some parts of the ranch. The instruments sometimes detected levels that made them worry. The experiments involved high power. He and the others used strong systems that required safety measures. He accepted that his work might expose him to risk, but he also insisted on careful protocols. He supported the idea that the work had to be done with caution because the situation might be harmful or unpredictable. One major thing that drove him was his scientific integrity. Taylor's aim was to collect data that could be analyzed later, data that could lead to real insight. He and some university colleagues worked together to design experiments. He reached out to experts from his alma mater at the University of Alabama in Huntsville for help. He trusted their skill. He knew that to understand something as strange as anomalous electromagnetic or radiation fields, he needed strong engineering and measurement teams. By being on site and staying in the field, he exposed himself to the rawest form of investigation. He had accepted that some experiments might be dangerous. He faced unknown risks and persisted because he believed in the value of real data. He believed that even if the phenomena seemed paranormal at first, they might hide natural physical causes. Over time, his work laid the foundation for deeper experiments, more advanced testing, and the real possibility that even the most bizarre phenomena could yield to science. Haunted. After spending long weeks living on Skinwalker Ranch, the environment began to impact him greatly. He lived inside a small camper trailer on the ranch rather than going back and forth to a hotel. He stayed in that trailer through the days and nights so he could closely monitor experiments, instruments, and anything odd that might happen at any hour. The choice to stay on site showed how serious he was about measuring these strange phenomena, but it came at a personal cost. Taylor's body began to feel the effects of being so close to the mystery. According to him, some areas of the ranch produced radiation levels that were not constant but spiked. In an interview, he revealed that he developed symptoms that matched radiation sickness. He reported feelings of nausea, lightheadedness, and a general sense of being unwell when he was near specific zones, especially around areas thought to be more active. But he accepted these risks because he wanted to reveal something real under the surface. Beyond the physical difficulties, Taylor's mental health was challenged. The repeated exposure to strange energies and the constant sense of danger seemed to invade his sleep. He stated that he had more terrifying nightmares during his time on the ranch than he had in decades before. The nightmares were vivid and disturbing enough that he often woke up screaming. This sleep disruption added another layer of stress to his already difficult work. However, Taylor did not dismiss the source of his dream, trouble, as mere stress alone. He weighed the possibility that his exposure to the ranch's strange radiation or energy might trigger them. The pattern of his mental disturbance felt linked to the anomalies he studied. This was not a simple, tough job problem. It felt like something deeper, something real and hard to explain. He worried that the long-term effects of his exposure might follow him beyond the ranch, recognizing that his physical symptoms were not just momentary. So he took the measurement seriously, and he used scientific care in recording when and where his instruments spiked. He tracked his readings over time, noting which spots on the land were more volatile and how often dangerous radiation pulse events happened. He also mapped risk zones on the ranch and correlated the data from his instruments with the physical layout of the land: hills, trenches, old homesteads, and ridges. He plotted how readings rose and fell, and he noted that some places were far more active than others. Adjustments had to be made concerning how Taylor used his equipment, and he made decisions about where he and his team should enter, when they should withdraw, and how often to come back. His work became a balance between deep curiosity and real fear. He felt that the ranch was dangerous, not only for him, but for others on the team. He insisted they follow strict protocols during experiments, especially in hotspots. He didn't want anyone to be exposed without warning, and he made sure they understood the risk. As he continued to work, he carried both physical exhaustion and mental strain. The ranch's energy did not follow a clear pattern. Instruments would go wild at unpredictable times. He remained alert even when he rested because he knew that spikes or strange readings could return at any moment. He felt that the work was pushing him beyond his prior scientific experiences into something powerful. He weighed each experiment, the gains in knowledge against the risks to his body and mind, making it difficult for him to step back. During his time there, Taylor realized he was changing. He was no longer just a scientist observing events from a safe distance. The ranch touched him in so many ways: his health, his mind, and his view of science itself. This was not simple folklore. The energy he measured was not idle background noise. This was a place where physical risk and profound mystery came together. He tried to protect himself, but felt bound to the mission. He stayed because he believed the phenomena must be understood, even if understanding came with danger. By the time he considered leaving, Travis Taylor carried more than data. He carried a weight. There was a deep scientific curiosity, mingled with fear that his presence might worsen things. He knew he was in a place that was not just strange, but threatening in a way that tested his limits as a man, as a scientist, and as someone committed to discovering the truth. If he stayed too long, he risked his health in ways that might not be reversible. Not all experiments could run without danger. mystery was powerful, and that the cost might be more than he was willing to pay. The clash between science and show business. While Dr. Travis Taylor saw his role as a serious investigator on Skinwalker Ranch, he also entered a television production. The show was produced by Prometheus Entertainment for the History Channel. The demands of making a television series sometimes clashed with the slow, careful work of science. Scientists need time, repetition, and controlled conditions. A TV production often needs visual drama, compelling footage, and a clear story arc. And Taylor knew this tension was real from the first day. In his talks and interviews, Travis Taylor admitted that some of his best data did not make it onto the show. He and his colleagues gathered scientific readings, but the producers did not always present or explore them fully on camera. This frustrated him. The scientific process demands more than brief flashes of anomalies. Real science requires analysis, replication, and peer review. In a television format, those steps often became secondary to creating episodes that were visually engaging. Taylor recognized that to make a TV show, there had to be spectacle. But he also believed that the phenomena at the ranch were not mere spectacle. He argued that some energy readings could not be explained by known technology or natural sources. Some of the radiation spikes were of a type that hinted at antimatter or other exotic physics, something not seen in everyday life. For him, the mystery was not a stage set. It was something that challenged the limits of current science. At the same time, Taylor's role on the show placed him between two worlds. On one hand, he had his identity as a serious scientist with high-level government and academic experience. On the other hand, he was part of a show that had to interest viewers, maintain ratings, and give producers dramatic content. He often had to adapt experiments so they would be TV-friendly. He felt pressure to deliver visually compelling moments while also preserving the integrity of his measurements. This conflict extended beyond methods to deeper questions. Taylor wondered how much of the investigation could truly be revealed. He believed that not all discoveries should be simplified for entertainment. Some findings needed careful explanation and possibly peer review, not quick camera cuts. He worried that the editing process might hide or downplay data that was scientifically significant. He saw a risk. If the show became too focused on spectacle, it might undermine its value as a scientific document. Taylor also faced the challenge of liability and safety in experiments. The need for dramatic footage could push the team into risky areas or force them to perform experiments under tighter timelines than a lab would offer. In some episodes, he explained that he did not fully control how the scientific narrative was framed, although he was part of the decisions about what would be filmed, what data to highlight, and how experiments would be presented. Yet he felt a constant tug-of-war between being a scientist and being a TV personality. Having undergone training in defense and aerospace, Taylor had a unique perspective on risk. He believed in pushing boundaries, but not recklessly. He knew that exotic phenomena might be real, but he also knew that sensationalism could undermine serious inquiry. This awareness made him cautious. He was not just chasing thrills, he was searching for phenomena that might reshape science. But in as much as needed results and verification, the show needed moments that captured audience attention. Despite the conflicts, Travis Taylor remained committed to his mission. He did not abandon the work when production pressures arose. He adapted by designing experiments that satisfied both scientific rigor and the demands of a reality TV show. He also tried to push for transparency. Taylor spoke publicly about his frustration when data was not shown in full. He believed that if the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch were real, they deserved more than a reality show. They deserved peer-reviewed investigation. Over time, the tension between science and production shaped his view of the project. The conflict was not just about experiments. It was about trust, intention, and the future of the investigation. Taylor carried his ambition and his doubts at once, but remained driven to uncover truth. He accepted that the struggle between real science and a television narrative was part of his role. And he persisted because for him, the mysteries of Skinwalker Ranch were worth navigating, even with all the compromises that came with bringing them to the screen. The breaking point. A long time passed before Dr. Travis Taylor reached a breaking point on Skinwalker Ranch. He had spent months measuring strange energy, placing sensors, and living in a trailer on the property. He had watched his meters flicker, seen electromagnetic spikes, and tracked radiation in places others feared to go. Over time, the data became more than just curiosity. For him, it turned into a burden, a weight pressing on his judgment and his well-being. His equipment measured gamma-ray spikes in very specific locations on the ranch. Some of those gamma readings centered around a value of 511 kilo-electron volts, a signature energy level that in theory comes from matter and antimatter annihilating. That was not ordinary radiation. He knew that if what he was detecting really related to antimatter, it was very exotic, possibly dangerous, and certainly unexplained by normal physics. This indicates that the phenomena might involve something beyond our current science, or at least beyond human technology. In time, Travis Taylor made a difficult decision. He chose to pull back from his intensive on-site role, not because he lost his curiosity, but because he understood that the cost was too high for continued full immersion. He decided to leave much of the fieldwork to others, though he did not abandon the investigation entirely. The risk, he realized, had to be balanced with his health, his ethics, and his vision for what real science should be. The ranch was not just a laboratory, it was a place of genuine danger. At that moment of stepping back, he revealed more to himself than to any audience. He admitted to himself that the land might be harnessing very powerful, very real physics that ordinary instruments and experiments could barely contain. He accepted that part of his mission was not just to measure, but to protect himself and others who worked with him. He weighed the possibility that staying might not just endanger his data, but his own life and the lives of his team members. His retreat was not defeat, but a very careful recalibration. However, Taylor didn't abandon the mission entirely. Rather, his legacy grew in a different direction, from active explorer on the ground to a more strategic, guiding role. He moved into a position that let him influence how the research should proceed while protecting his health and guarding the integrity of the data he had collected. His retreat signaled that the mystery of Skinwalker Ranch was not just a TV show, but a serious scientific frontier that deserved more careful study than what a reality series alone could provide. Taylor's impact resonated with other scientists and investigators. He had already raised the bar for how to investigate high-strangeness phenomena, with instruments such as electromagnetic detectors and radiation sensors. His insistence on real measurement challenged many stereotypes that paranormal phenomena must be spooky or unscientific. By testing anomalies with engineering discipline, he helped legitimize Skinwalker Ranch in the minds of researchers and skeptics alike. He also redefined how the public might view unexplained phenomena. Taylor repeatedly rejected the term paranormal, preferring to call what he was studying high strangeness, not because he thought the phenomena were supernatural, but because he genuinely believed they were part of our universe, even if they defied current physics. This mindset encouraged a more open, curious approach to what many dismiss as fringe. His scientific posture invited others to take the strange seriously without automatically labeling it otherworldly. Taylor's legacy also extended to safety and ethics in research. Having witnessed firsthand the physical and psychological toll that the ranch can exert, he became a voice for cautious exploration. His decision to scale back his involvement outlined the idea that some investigations need to balance discovery with care. Rather than pushing endlessly, he modeled a strategy of measured risk, regular evaluation, and retreat when necessary. This approach may shape future investigations, making them more sustainable and responsible. Another important implication of his work is the potential for peer-reviewed science. Taylor hoped that his data would someday reach a scientific community beyond television. His insistence on public data, which is subject to analysis by other experts, suggested that these phenomena could be studied like other anomalies in physics, geology, or engineering. If his measurements were validated, they could lead to new theories about unknown energy sources, underground structures, or exotic physics, pushing the paranormal toward real science. Beyond the ranch, his work raises broader implications for how society handles unexplained phenomena. If anomalies like those at Skinwalker Ranch are real and measurable, they might change how we frame topics like UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena, national security, and even consciousness. Taylor's involvement contributes to a narrative that sees these mysteries not simply as entertainment, but as potential frontiers of science, ones that could reshape our understanding of physics, reality, and risk. Travis Taylor's decision to partially withdraw might also inspire a new generation. Scientists, graduate students, or curious researchers may look at his journey and realize that investigating the unknown does not always require full immersion. He has left the front lines of Skinwalker Ranch, but his work remains embedded in its scientific framework. The future of the ranch, and possibly of high strangeness research in general, may be shaped by the foundation he laid, even if he is no longer watching the ridge at night.